I am here with Marquez Jacobs. You guys may have seen our last interview, man. He is a very inspirational brother. He spent 22 years in prison. At the age of 18, was released at the age of 38. We didn't get into a lot of the topics last time. I wanted to talk to you, Marquez, about let's talk about the beginning for you. Growing up in Detroit, would you say you were a good kid, or was it were you on a path to prison? Was there any signs and stuff, everything that showed that if you had intervention early on, it would have prevented you from going down that path?
First of all, I grew up in Detroit, west side of Detroit, and I went to school from kindergarten all the way to ninth grade. But at a young age, my mother taught me all the essentials of what I would need to be able to be productive, especially when it comes to academics. When it comes to schooling, my mother was a stickler on making sure that, as she would say, make sure that you enunciate all your words. She would say that type of stuff to me at 2, 3, 4 years of age. So I really grew up. When you teach your children excellence and how to become intelligent, you have to be careful, because your child is going to be far more advanced than other children that they're going to be around. So they're going to speak differently around these other kids. They're going to inform kids about stuff that you're informing them about, and other parents might not be ready for that. So that's what happened with me. I get around kids, I get to talking about penises and scrotums and testicular cancer. I'm talking kids about stuff that my mother was teaching me, the anatomy. I was using real words, and kids would go back and tell their parents, and then my mother would get phone calls. What is you over there teaching your son? Your son talking to my kids about vaginas and penises. And so my mother said, listen, that what I teach you is not for you to go out and teach other people. And as a kid, that's hard to understand. What does that mean? You telling me what? You telling me that you teaching me something, and then I'm not supposed to teach nobody else? It's an oxymoron. And ain't no balance there. So when you teach children certain stuff, especially when they excel, you have to understand and know that they're going to use it somewhere else outside of the realms of you as a parent. They're going to use it. And I used to get in trouble for using it. I would get in trouble for using some of my stuff because I guess I was considered to be too grown. I don't know what it was, but it was always problematic for me in school. So from kindergarten all the way up to 4th, 5th grade, I was always getting in trouble. Always. I'm talking about kindergarten started.
Mostly just the conversations you were having with other kids, where you were kind of putting them on the topics, or was it you were actually doing mischievous things that kids do sometimes?
It really, when I look back now, I wasn't a Dennis the Menace. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't Dennis the Menace. I was a regular child, and I in school, I would do my schoolwork, and then I would complete my schoolwork, and it would be so simplistic to me. When I blow through it, I'm done. Now I have free time to do what? Jack off, play around, BS. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I would do. So back then, the labels that were placed upon me early on were EI and LD. And if you're in tune with both of those, that's just probably the new name for ADHD now. But back then it was EI, which is emotionally impaired, and LD was learning disabled. Those are labels that they put on me, and I wore those. I started wearing those labels. Not like I didn't dumb myself down, but I just always knew they keep saying there's something wrong with me. And then when I was in the 3rd grade, 4th grade, one day one of my teachers, she made me wear a sign that she made out of paper, and it said persona non grata on there. Do you know what that means?
No.
Persona non grata is Latin, and it means an unwanted person.
Oh, that's
my science teacher made me wear that around my neck in school. That's almost like making someone wear a scarlet letter back in the days. she made me wear this around my neck, and she told me that that's what I was. One of my other teachers saw me with the sign on, and she asked me, you know, why do you have that on? And I told her Miss Williams made me put it on, and she took me to the principal's office. Long story short, I guess they got on her about that. I mean, she didn't get fired because she still worked there. You know, she still worked there, so she didn't get fired or nothing. But they took it off my neck, and when I found out what the meaning of the word was, I always wore that. An unwanted person. I've been an unwanted person. I've felt that I've been an unwanted person for a long time out of my 54 years. I've been an unwanted person. They labeled me that, and I wore that. You can't put labels on children because the labels that we put on children, you know, if you keep telling the children, you dumb, you stupid, you act just like your dad, you ain't gonna be nothing. If you keep saying that to children, what do you think they're gonna become? That in which you tell them. So when you tell a child that he's an unwanted person and you make me sit out in the hallway, and then I see that everybody else is throwing a fit about this situation, it lets me know that something just happened that I really didn't understand the full magnitude of what had transpired, but I understood that I always was going to be considered an outcast. So, I mean, you know, everything in my life has always been outlawish, outlawish. Everything about me has always been outcast.
Were you getting arrested as a juvenile? Were you getting into like juvenile trouble before?
Yeah, 11. Started at 11. Around 11. 11 is when I started, you know, committing crimes, and I got caught for stealing a bike, and I got caught shoplifting, and then after that I got caught stealing a car. Like everything elevated. It elevated. Then it went to drugs. I mean, everything elevated. They elevated. It went from petty theft, you know, stealing potato chips and gum and candy, and to telephones and clothes and gym shoes and cologne and do-rags, whatever. It was kids, just whatever you thought of trying to go do as kids, we went to go do it. And then it elevated from that to stealing bikes, from stealing bikes to stealing cars, from stealing cars to selling drugs, from selling drugs to going to prison. I mean, everything is just, it's elevation.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know, you know, it's like entering into chambers.
so what happens, like, you know, when you're 18 that leads to you going to prison?
So when I turned 18, they released me from the training school. So we missed my whole training school bit, but that's, you know, I did
Okay.
all juvenile time. I did
Oh,
like
how long were you in juvenile?
from the age of like 14, they classified me ward of the state. Um, at 14, from 14 to 18, 4 years. I've been locked up all my goddamn life, man. So slavery, when they talk about slavery, boy, I know, I'm telling you.
Oh, so what were
I've been
you in?
locked up my
What were
whole
you?
life.
What did you end up going to juvenile for?
I went to I went to juvenile, man, because all right, I had got the stolen car case. I had a stolen car case. All right. I got out for the stolen car case, and they put me on probation. I was on probation. I ended up getting kicked out of school. And one day I went back up to my high school to be with my girlfriend. You know, hang out in the hallways, be with your girl. You know, I'm up there. I got my top tens on, my starter jacket. You know, I got a screwdriver in my sleeve, car outside out of the stove. I'm doing my stuff. A little kid doing illegal stuff. The principal had the hall monitors grab me because he said, "Hey, he's not supposed to be here. He's expelled." They grabbed me. Long story short, the police came. They took me to the youth home. The youth home got me. That was a violation of my probation. And we went to court. And when we went to court, my mother, she threw her hands up. I hadn't even began a criminal history. I mean, she threw her hands up immediately. Like she ain't even say, wait a minute. My mother was so discouraged, so I keep looking over to the left. I keep looking over because I'm looking at her picture. You know, she passed last year, but she was just my mother could have got me out of there, And she didn't. She didn't. She didn't. She didn't. She didn't. She could have got me out. Like they had me on a. I had a personal bond basically. The personal bond was, it was when I went back up on the rock. The kids was like, "How much is your bond?" I was like, "I got a personal bond." They was like, "Oh man, so your mama, all she got to do is sign a piece of paper, and you can get out of here with no money." They was like, "Man, your mama ain't signing you out. Oh, your mama don't love you. Oh man, your mama letting you stay in here." This 14. It's 14 years old that I'm going through this. You know what I'm saying? And so when I go to court, they claim me ward of the state. My mother said she didn't want to put up with it. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness. It was just me. I was her only child. She wasn't even married. She didn't have no man. There was no man in our household. It was me and my mother from the age I was born until I was 14. So when she did that, that began my journey. That began my whole real criminal journey. Training school. I went to the youth. I went to the youth home. From the youth home, I went to a camp. From the camp, they sent me to a Flint youth home because I messed up at the camp. So the camp was sending me to the Flint youth home till they found bedding for me in the boys training school. Then they sent me to Maxie Boys Training School. I went there and stayed there. And then I ended up getting kicked out of Maxie Boys Training School. And when I got kicked out of Maxie Boys Training School, they sent me to Green Oaks across the street. Green Oaks is like the maximum security prison for males, grown men. That's maximum security for kids. And they sent me there for like, I only stayed there for like 7, 8 months or something. And I turned 18 and then they just let me go. They just let me go. They just released me. They just released me into society. So I get out, like 2 months later, I caught an armed robbery case. And the armed robbery case led me to go to prison. I was sentenced to 3 to 20 plus 2 for the gun, which is a total of 5 to 20.